Greetings and salutations, this is Huge Ass. And as this is my first video since I've passed the 1000 subscriber mark, the magic mark, I want to thank all my subscribers. Whether you've been here since the start, you've been somewhere in the middle, or you're a recent subscriber. Welcome to the channel and thank you for subscribing. I never thought I'd get anywhere near 1000, it was just a magical thing to achieve. Just doing this for fun. I'm glad that there's at least 1,000 people out there who like my work and want to subscribe. It'll only encourage me to do more. Thank you once again. On to today's video.
Because everything in this image and footage shows us a defined horizon behind the turbines. And this is simply impossible on a globe. This is for me perhaps the single most important footage for Flat Earth that I have ever seen.
Ah, don't you love it when Ranty gets all the quiver? You just know that the mental gymnastics are going to be spectacular. And he didn't disappoint with his latest video. He gave it the very modest title of the best flat earth footage and proof bar none. In a sense, he was right, but not in the way he thought. The video he showed was by someone called Dr. John D, for whom there is no credentials whatsoever to prove that he's a doctor. Apparently anyone can call themselves a doctor, so for the remainder of this video I'm going to refer to myself as Dr. Huge Ass. The alleged doctor took an observation from the beach at Worthing towards France, with the wind farm towers of the Rampion wind farm in between. Ranty makes the claim that we can actually see France, even though it's 128 kilometres away. He actually got the measurement wrong and said it was more than that. He never actually proves that it is France and not something else.
Now, I won't submit you to the full video because the guy filming it just had no idea what he was doing. He was just flipping everywhere this way and that. Quite frankly, it made me feel seasick. Next time, use your tripod properly and give us some idea of what we're looking at for more than like half a second. I really don't think it's much to ask that if you're making an observation that will be heralded as the best flat earth observation ever, that you do a better job than this.
The first time I saw it, it looked like marine haze. Of course, as conditions build for significant refraction, that's exactly what you'd expect to see. You see marine haze forming, which will resolve into something a little bit more identifiable. Ranty makes the jump that this is proof of a flat Earth, simply because he can see so far. But everyone knows refraction is a thing, even science-denying people like flat earthers. Ranty doesn't explain why we don't see this every single day if it's due to a flat Earth. His conclusion is purely an argument based in incredulity. He calculates that the drop from the horizon at Worthing is about 1,500 metres, or 1,550.
But remember, this observation is looking over 128 kilometres.
Your angle of refraction only needs to be a degree or two. The drawing he provides to illustrate this point is totally misleading. The curve is nowhere near as severe as what he shows in this diagram. And while using the Empire State Building and the Eiffel Tower is a powerful image, it's just persuasion. Ranty has repeatedly documented episodes of refraction, made lots of observations over much shorter distances than this, where refraction was at play. How much more will refraction be at play over such longer distances? Let's do a little calculation. Imagine we're at Worthing. We need to lift the cliffs at Le Havre up 1,500 metres, or 1,550 metres, so that we can see them from Worthing. How much refraction would you need?
Let's draw a triangle with a base 128 kilometres.
And the right angle height of 1,550 metres. I think Ranty has a problem with scale here, because 1,550 metres
is nothing compared to 128 kilometres.
The hidden height is just 1% of the distance away. So let's calculate the angle of refraction we'd need to show the tops of the cliffs of Le Havre. Plugging it into this triangle calculator, we get an angle of
0.69 of a degree. 0.69, not even 1 degree
of refraction was needed. Ranty tripped himself up by presupposing a flat Earth. It blinded him to look for problems with his observation, and to ways of understanding what was going on, so that he knew what the truth actually was. So of course, a refracted horizon is perfectly consistent with the globe model. So thanks again, Ranty, for proving the globe once again.
Regardless, it's all a bit of a moot point because Ranty provides zero evidence that that's actually France. In fact, there's only one or two shots where it might be something other than marine haze. And I think I know what you're seeing in those shots. There are several boats in the original video, and of course there are. This is the English Channel, one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. What do you think are the chances that this little white splotch is a boat that's further away? Very high, I would have thought. And is that more likely than seeing all the way to France 128 kilometres away? Now, I went to marinetraffic.com to see if they would give me historical data for the 6th of August this year. It only went back a couple of days in the free version of it. I don't know if the paid version gives you anything, but if anyone out there has the ability of giving historical data of the traffic between Worthing and France for that day, the 6th of August, around 11:22, I believe the observation was made in the morning. It'd be good to see that traffic chart so that we can see if there were any other boats out there a little bit further out. I mean, this is so typical of Ranty. He calls this the best flat earth footage and proof bar none. And yet that completely depends on that little bit of image in 1 or 2 frames of the video being France, and he offers zero proof that it is. And even if it is, you can explain it by refraction. It would have to be an absolutely freak set of conditions for it to be refraction, but it's still possible. So until someone proves that that actually is France, this is in no way the best flat earth footage and proof bar none. It's not even close. When your choice is between crazy and plausible, you go with plausible. So maybe this white splotch is the chalk cliffs of Le Havre that have been refracted up over the horizon under freak conditions. Or maybe it's just another boat somewhere between the Observer and France, a bit further out than any of the other boats that you can see in the video. Which do you think is more likely? Regardless, there's definitely refraction going on because this is just one observation, and this is something flat earthers always do. They leap on just the one observation without even to check what it's like in other conditions. I thought my friend Arctic Reflections addressed this very well, so here's a little snippet from one of his videos on this.
And here we have a picture of the wind farm. This is a more professional photo than the other ones. I borrowed it from the company building the wind farm. If we zoom in here, it's clear that the back row of wind farms is more hidden than they in the front. This is a typical flat earth video. Bad filming, bad handling of cameras and tripods. They try to fool us that we will see the true horizon, the geometric horizon, and they don't calculate using refractions.
Thanks, Arctic, and if you're not subscribed to Arctic Reflections already, I thoroughly encourage you to do so. He's such an awesome creator. He's a professional photographer, naval captain. He's all sorts of things, and it all comes out in these videos, and he smashes the flat earth. And the photo that Arctic provided is a genuine black swan photo, at least in the context of the photos that the flat earthers look at, because they only look at the things that support them. And a black swan is where you present one thing that proves that all the others isn't always the case. This photo shows that without refraction, there isn't an issue. You can see the curve there quite clearly. Refraction is clearly at play in the other photos. Normally, you don't see anywhere near as far as that. But hey, this was a freak day. Just like the original black swan. This is why we have the scientific method, to avoid this sort of jumping to conclusions based on so little data. We would always take multiple observations under different conditions and figure out what the common thread was to all of them. The fact that Ranty leapt on this one observation as the best flat earth proof ever just goes to show how little commitment he has to science and how little commitment he has to getting this right and making it indisputable. Collect all the data, not just the observations that you think support your case. You cannot determine reality that way. The database that is accumulating is the set of observations that Ranty collects where he doesn't understand what he's watching and jumps to conclusions. And I'd say it's reached the critical mass where we can basically dismiss anything he claims. I mean, Ranty, did you even look for other photos that would show the same thing under different conditions? Surely that's an obvious thing to do. I once saw a magician saw a lady in half. But did he really? Just because it looks like something, it doesn't mean it really is. Especially when you don't have enough knowledge to understand what's really going on. And even more especially if you ignore the advice of experts. That is, people who have spent a good deal of their life studying these things and do have some idea of what they're talking about, not some guy who just goes to feed the ducks every day. Bring me some proof that those blotches were actually France, and I'll start to look at this again. I mean, is it really such a big ask to say, do a little bit more than merely say, I want that to be France, so therefore it is? Give us some evidence. A picture is not enough evidence, especially when it's as unclear as these ones. You've jumped to a conclusion. Provide something to back it up. And also eliminate all other possibilities. Only then can you say that you've got something. This morning the Snark, you might remember him from the outro music to Conspiracy Cats, wrote a little ditty for Ranty. The Snark suggested I include it in this video, so I'm playing it for you now.
Hello, it's Snark. Recently I left a comment on the video and the question was, could I change this into a song? Yes, I can. The first part of this song has already been recorded in another video. Maybe you'll recognize it. Also, let's say it was Ranty who fell for a trap that's now some time ago. It doesn't matter. Here we go. Ranty flat earth cannot think very straight. He's a poor and deluded old chap. Conspiracy cats neatly handed him bait. He immediately fell for the trap. He wiggled and wormed, he complained and he squirmed, and scratches his nose and earlobe. He tried really hard, but he's not very smart, and never stops proving the globe. Derp, derp, derpity derp. Ranty goes talking, it sounds like a burp. His brain goes a-locking, it's shocking, it's shocking. But Ranty keeps spouting his flirpity flirp. And that's all. Well, you know the deal. Like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.
How awesome was that? Thanks to the Snark for allowing me to include that in my video, and there's a link to his channel in the description. Go over, give him a like and a subscribe.
So to finish off, there were a few points in the video where Ranty demonstrated his ignorance of reality and said some blatantly false statements. I'm just going to correct them for you, Ranty, so that you don't get it wrong next time.
However, the globe math needs a mathematical distance to this place, and in their model it is a fixed position with a fixed distance based on an observer height.
You're wrong.
Where you're wrong is that the globe math does not need to be able to calculate where the horizon is. We wanted to know how to calculate where the horizon was, so we figured it out, tested it, and then we have a formula we can use. The formula is a result of observations, not the other way round. And it's not fixed. Any horizon calculator worth its salt will take into account refraction. As we saw with the black swan photograph and with these images, refraction is a thing and it affects how far away the horizon apparently is. All we can ever calculate with certainty is where the geometric horizon is. But we have an atmosphere, so the apparent horizon is never where the geometric horizon is. I know you've had this explained to you before, Ranty, so you're either being dishonest or just blatantly stupid. I guess both is an option as well.
The point here is that everything beyond 2.29 miles should be hidden, if the geometric horizon is the actual edge of a sphere.
Wrong.
Once again, we have an atmosphere. There is always some amount of refraction, and the curve calculators take that into account. What don't you get? The geometric horizon is not the same as the apparent horizon, always, because of that. It's only the same on places where there is no atmosphere, like the moon.
What is clear in this evidence is that the horizon is not in front of the turbines. In fact, it is well beyond even the furthest turbines.
Correct.
You cannot have this on a geometric globe of 6,371 kilometers in radius.
Wrong.
Really, Randy, do I have to say this again? That's true if there's no atmosphere, but we do have an atmosphere, so there is refraction, and it's different on different days depending on different conditions. The Black Swan photograph proves that if you put it side by side with a photograph on another day, and so does this observation. So it's perfectly possible on a planet-sized globe with an atmosphere. Stop ignoring that, you're wasting everyone's time.
Dr. John D filmed in these pristine conditions, and in doing so pushed the horizon back so far that even the distant land of France was captured.
Wrong.
You've got no evidence that it's France. All you can see is a white splotch. A far more likely hypothesis is that it's a boat further out to sea resolving through the marine haze. I'm pretty sure I know how to get the proof that it's a boat. Do you know how to get the proof that it's France?
Saint Adresse and Le Havre are the two nearest locations in the observation, and the distance to these is quite incredible. 149 kilometres. Yes, 149 kilometres from an observer height of just 3.5 feet.
Wrong.
Why did you choose Le Havre? It's around the headland and you can't see it from Worthing because the headland's in the way. You measure to the headland. As you can see here, the distance to there is 128 kilometres. A lot less. Still pretty impressive if it actually is France in the video, but you've offered zero evidence that it is.
It makes far greater sense to understand that we just see this far, on a good day, with great visibility, and the sea state as described earlier, than to believe that what we are seeing here is a mirage.
Wrong.
Maybe that'd make sense if this was the only piece of evidence we ever had, and we didn't think too much about it like you have. Or haven't, I should say. I mean, it's not like we've measured the curve. It's not like we can see the curve of the shadow of the Earth in a lunar eclipse. And it's not like there's a South Celestial Pole or anything. Or a myriad of other globe proofs. This is how charlatans deceive you. They take one case that requires special pleading, meaning that you can't apply it in any other case, build a thought bubble around that in your head, and then convince you that they're right. Test everything, guys. Everything I offer you can be done by yourself. And there'll be days where you can make observations like Dr. John D did as well. But for the vast majority of the time, they won't look anything like that. Reality lies in the majority of cases, not a one-off.
Anyone who's watching this and has any doubts, you shouldn't have them anymore. This is just a freak occurrence. When this happens every day of the year, then you can start thinking that there's something here to take notice of. But until then, you can assume that it's just someone who's wrong, desperately trying to justify their wrong point of view with anything that they can latch onto. The globe is safe. Ranty proved it. Again. If you like this video, don't forget to click like, and if you haven't already, click the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you know when the next video from Huge Ass comes up. Well, theoretically anyway. And that means there's nothing left to do but cue the corgi.
You're despicable.
I love Hugh Jarson, I cannot lie. That's awesome. But